Nice. So Dan Koe came out with a recent video, and I thought there were some really good things that he talked about, and that we should check it out. So I'll
Yeah.
just start playing it now.
So the first solution here is to become AI first, because there are three types of people who use AI. There's people who tried ChatGPT once a few years ago and thought it wasn't special. There's people who use various AI tools for internet searches, summaries, and simple tasks that would take maybe 10 more seconds to do without AI. And then there's people who have used it enough to see the light and are using it in every place that they can. Now, I have a lot of opinions on AI. I don't think that it makes people stupider. I don't think it takes away your creativity. But I want this to be a practical video, so I'll save that for another. But what most people don't understand is that the output of AI is up to your skill and imagination. It's not that AI isn't as good as you. It's that you're not good enough at AI to make AI better than you. Most people think it's still just about typing questions into ChatGPT when that's not the case at all. If you give an AI extremely specific instructions on what to do, and these can be long or short, it will do those quite well. Like I recently posted on Substack how to create a landing page for a digital product and going through how to write copy for that. And I included instructions to create a prompt around that to write copy. But there's so many different things and moving pieces there where if you ask the AI, hey, can you help me write a persuasive landing page, and then just expect it to spit stuff out.
To stop that, but like what we've talked about is, and like every time I talk to a boomer, their their understanding of AI is that first part that what he said where like it like about it not like taking away your creativity, but the usage your usage of it is limited by your imagination and your skills.
Right.
And if you have more imagination or are better, if you flex that muscle of creativity more and you have more skills, then you can utilize AI more.
Right.
Like I was talking to somebody this week, I think it was yesterday, and they think that all AI is going to do is make people not think and like take away their intellect. And it's like, that's just somebody who doesn't use it and doesn't keep up with how it can be utilized.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I've been using it, very intentionally, and it's increased since, it's coming up on a year.
Right.
And I feel like my intellectual, if you can quantify it, has increased far greater than I could ever realize. Because, the more I educated about myself and what I'm doing, it's educated me up and given me, ultimately different perspectives on things that I would never have thought of. So it's just like, okay, if it can give me this, concept or perspective, what else can it give me? So it's literally like it's helping me think outside of the box
Right.
on on any aspect that you want to think out of the box about. And that's just the beginning of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've both realized that like we we didn't know how to utilize the skills that we have with AI until recently, where we've used it more and like saw listened to people like Dan Koe and other people talk about how to use it, and then realize, oh shit, like I do this all the time. How can I use AI to do that more efficiently?
Right.
And because of the skill you've developed, you can see where when you ask AI something and it gives you an answer, you can be like, okay, that's 80% there, but that's good. I
Yeah.
know where it's lacking, and I can figure that out from there.
100%. I mean, I just had a prompt this morning of, just trying to figure something out and, as descriptive as possible. And it gave me, the answer. I'm just like, that doesn't feel right. Again, a feeling is a human thing. And it's just giving it based on the data and the context that it's, coming from. And it can only, come from so much based on what it knows. So just a small little tweak of like, okay, I forgot to add this, da 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 da. Hey, glad that you brought that up. And it changed basically everything, and just like from like a concept wise. So,
Right.
yep,
But you were only able to do that because of the experience that you have, the skills you've developed, and the eye that you've honed through all that, skill and experience, to see, like,
yeah,
oh shit, it's a little off here, and that's where, like, someone like the boomer I was talking to doesn't realize that, yeah, if you can't think more, if you don't think deep enough on this subject, then yeah, it will limit your thinking or your usage of it, because you're only seeking an answer. But like, if you know more about a subject and you get an answer, you'll be like, okay, there's a little bit missing here, and from your skillful eye that you developed, you can expound from there and use it in a different way, or do some more research on your own outside of AI to cover that gap.
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, that's where, becoming a really masterful prompt engineer, but also remembering that, the answers that, AI gives you is not the end all be all. Again,
Right.
it's just another possible answer, a possible perspective based off of large quantifiable, data,
Right.
data and pattern driven. So, but yeah, again, it just kind of opens the doors up to many more possibilities for sure. And just you got to understand that, because again, I've talked to so many people about it, opened up so many people's perspectives on how I'm using it, and then they come back, oh, look, I just got this. I'm like, okay, well, what was your prompt like? And they're just like, oh, I just told it to build this out. Like, well, have you ever thought about building out like this, and this, and giving this prompt? It's probably going to give a totally different answer. So you just got to keep playing around with it. And again, I feel like it's just become like almost like second nature for me when it comes to like prompting. And there's always something new to um, learn. But yeah, I mean, I've really been honing my skills and becoming like a prompt, AI, master for sure.
Yeah. And he's
So,
going to get into that in this next section.
okay.
So here we go. Um, he goes, this is a quote: being AI native isn't about building features for your users, it's an operating model for how to run your company. It's how you work, how you think, how you and your company breathe. It's a re-architecture, a rewiring, a philosophical shift from how do we scale humans to how do we scale decisions, creativity, and action with machines. And so let's see here. So he goes into these differentiations between people who use AI, beginners, and then people who are like trained. And this is a Substack article written by this guy that he follows.
I had to pay. I subscribed to him. I hope you don't mind, man, if I show this, but I just want to show a few examples here, right? So he just pretty much says most companies are falling behind, not falling behind, already behind because they aren't AI first. They aren't hopping on this technological wave that we're going through. But I want to show you a few examples of what it means to be AI first, because I think he just put it in a very easy to understand way. So in terms of product or building a product, non-AI native has slow feedback loops, manual research, roadmap debates based on opinion, and then AI native is summarize all user interviews in minutes, generate roadmap options based on feature request clustering, simulate user behavior before launching anything. So even as a creator, as a one-person business, imagine when you're developing your own products, if you were able to do all of this, because then you don't have to spend any of the time actually doing that. You get to focus on the more important things. So prompts here.
Just to hone in on what he just said, the three things that an AI, quote, an AI native would use it for is to summarize all user interviews in minutes, right? Kind of an attempt to extrapolate or extract the key insights from people who use a product, right?
Hmm.
Cutting down on time, but like getting to that essential part of what the product's good for. Generating a roadmap of options based on feature request clustering. So based on these interviews and requests, creating options the way you're going about doing things. I've used AI that way, like talking about like the podcast, my training, my interests. Like, okay, what are options for me to create a product or provide value to other people? And it's it gets my mind thinking because of how it reasons. Right,
Yeah.
its reasoning is slightly different than how I reason, so it like kind of sparks more creative thoughts on my end. And then that last part is simulate user behavior before launching anything. What do you take away from that?
I mean, what do you think? Yeah, I'm trying to understand what he means by stimulating user behavior before launching anything.
I
That's
think I think the only thing that I can come up with is negative reviews
okay.
or things that in these interviews people have said they've used it for. So simulate user behavior, maybe while using it, before launching anything. So maybe kind of creating like a story of like, hey, this is how users will use it. Maybe that can help with your marketing.
Gotcha. So just better understanding, your target demographic for that and basically, okay. No, I see what he's saying. Okay. Damn, I never thought of that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then he's going to talk about the prompts.
Here,
Okay.
as examples, would be summarize the last 50 user interviews and cluster the main pain points by frequency and intensity, suggest 3 product bets with highest signal to noise.
All right, so summarize the last 50 user interviews and cluster the main pain points by frequency and intensity. So which ones are more spoken about, and then which ones are more painful, I guess, right?
Right.
And then suggest 3 product bets with highest signal to noise. What's a product bet?
I have no idea.
Yeah. All right.
It's
You can
something, I mean, we could ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, in relation to selling a product, what is a product bet? So,
What when selling a product? What is a product bet? All right. Product bet is a strategic decision where a company or entrepreneur invests time, money, and resources into developing and selling a product based on the belief or bet that it will succeed in the market. Here's what it typically means. High risk calculation. You're wagering that the product will meet a real need, gain traction, and generate profit, but it's a bet because market demand may not materialize, competitors may outperform you, customers might not respond as expected. Okay, so yeah, the
yeah.
bet. Your examples: Instagram's pivot from Bourbon, a check-in app, to a simple photo sharing app was a successful product bet on simplicity and visual content. Apple's bet on the iPhone was a massive product bet combining phone, iPod, and internet into one device. Got it. All right. So let's go back to here.
User feedback and usage data, write a product spec for a new onboarding flow, include edge cases and counter arguments. Now, something on social media, in terms of social media, is like, okay, digest these 50 comments from my latest post and tell me what people's biggest pain points or interests or questions were from that. And you can have that delivered to you to give you more insight on the type of content that you should create. And it gives you a lot more insight than that, because you can also build products around that and you can steer your business with more relevant information. Now, there's engineering.
I mean, just another way to use ChatGPT, man. Like, I'm not even at that phase, building out a product, but, basically analyzing data, you know. But what I am in the phase of, with the data that I'm analyzing when I get on, these business discovery calls, talking to business owners looking to buy or sell their businesses. I have an AI application that I use called Otter, and basically, it transcribes the whole entire conversation and summarizes it into a nice detailed explanation. That way, for those 15 to 20 minutes, I'm so in tuned and so intact with what they're saying. I'm asking all the right questions. I don't have to worry about taking notes. I upload all that transcript in the ChatGPT, give a quick background, prompt summary about, the what I just had, and it just tells me every little detail, when buying a business or selling a business, the emotional side, any kind of red flags about, that I should pick up on. So just analyzing data, you
Right.
know, next level,
Yeah.
at the click of a button.
Right.
So, but yeah, he's doing it in a sense of like understanding your audience, understanding the comments, and basically, building a product based on your audience, your current real-time audience. It's one thing to be like, okay, I started, my business like this, but 6 months later, I might have a completely different audience. So, yeah, it's working, smarter in real time.
Right.
So, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
But staying relevant,
Right.
in an ever-changing time, especially when it comes to, using ChatGPT. I'm sure a lot of people are, getting into, talking about how they use it, but yeah, just staying relevant in ever-evolving times. What
Right.
might be popular a couple of months ago is probably not popular now when it comes to ChatGPT or AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. Next part.
Time, or that the 24/7 LLM can just feed to a person when that point similar problem. So the question now is, how do you start so that you're ready when that point hits? And my advice again is to practice automating yourself out of work. So how do we do that? When you go to do any task, do this. Write down the entire process in detail, like you were teaching someone how to do your job, including thought processes or creative processes. We're actually going to talk about that specifically in a future video where I'm going to talk about the future of digital products, where I see information products going, like courses, coaching, freelancing, other things like that, what creators have done for so long that are going to see a drastic shift.
I'm actually really interested in that because what he usually has pretty good takes, right?
yeah,
So he sees that digital products are moving a certain way for coaches and stuff like that, education stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that video.
yeah,
Next step is to assume that any task or piece of that process can be done with a prompt. Then you attempt to turn that task or piece of that process into a prompt. Then you test it, note where it doesn't do well, and refine the prompt until it's at least 90% of the way there. And then you store that prompt somewhere safe. And if you don't know how to do that task, you can ask AI for detailed instructions of how to do that task.
You're right there.
yeah. Not a lot of people know that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the most important prompts you can use or learn is ChatGPT. I'm trying to figure out, how to start a business. Please give me 10 detailed prompts coming from a expert business entrepreneur that has started multiple, businesses, and have these 10 prompts, break it down XYZ, and boom, it'll give you all the prompts,
Right.
everything that it's looking for in order to get your desired result.
Yeah. And then even to be more specific, how tell me how to prompt you to do this. Whatever it is, right?
Right.
Tell me how I should prompt you to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to be able to ask someone, like ask AI to to tell you how to use it.
Wow. Yeah.
What other product have you ever had ever that everything's got a user manual,
Right.
right? So you have to like go back and okay, this is the step where you do this, blah blah blah. But now you can literally ask. It's like asking a bike, tell me how to ride you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
well, put your right foot on first.
Yeah. But again, here's another thing. Not everybody learns the same way,
Mm-hmm.
so you can even get even more specific. Tell me a prompt in order to learn how to ride a bike. I'm a visual learner, or I learn like this, or I learn like this, or you know what I'm saying? So it gives even
Right,
more specific, so to shorten the gap of time that it takes you to actually acquire that skill.
right,
I.e., my notion, I love to say it, Bending time.
Bending time. Nice. Side note: I watched a video on Google's new AI launch, and there's an aspect to the new AI that is pretty much Jarvis from Iron Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where it will you just like kind of like set your phone up, and like this guy, the video example was this guy was fixing a bike, and he goes, "Hey Gemini or whatever, find the user manual for a something something bike, and find the section on it where it talks about brakes. What kind of screw goes into the brake here?" And it like on the phone, it like brings up the user manual, scrolls down to the section on brakes, and then reads off that section to you.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, cool. And but it's like literally Jarvis, like Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man talking to a robot and helping you out, like literally while you're manually doing things. Like that's like, dude.
Wow.
I mean, dude, think about being a kid wanting to do anything. Like this stuff is big to us because like we've reignited that kid inside of us.
Yeah.
And a lot of adults our age and older have kind of lost contact with that child, that 5-year-old, that 12-year-old that they used to be. But every kid is going to be using this stuff to like
Yep.
play and create all these things that their imaginative mind wants to play with and create.
Yep.
So it's gonna pass a bunch of our generation by, but this younger generation is just gonna have like everything at their hands.
Yeah. It's incredible.
All right, moving on.
Now, this really depends on the task that you're trying to accomplish. For something like creating content or a YouTube video, a lot of the times you're just going to get general advice because every creator has their own way of doing those things. It's a highly relative domain, right? That's where AI isn't going to thrive too much unless people give out their own specific processes. So if Ali Abdaal and Alex Hormozy and I just started asking AI without any direction, like, hey, how do I create my next YouTube video? Here's the topic I want to talk about, so on and so forth. We wouldn't get as good results compared to if we were just going to do it ourselves. So you need to get more specific. You need to give specific instructions to AI. So as an example, I can go to Ali Abdaal's channel. I can take one of his highest performing YouTube videos. I can give it to AI and tell it to break down the exact structure of the video. What worked? What are the psychological patterns he's using here? What's the structure of the entire video? Just break it down in extreme detail, every single line, why it works. Now I have detailed instructions that I can turn into an AI prompt to recreate that with my own ideas. And every YouTube video is different. So if you were to feed it a video that didn't perform well and ask for the same thing, then your video probably isn't going to perform well. And it completely depends on the topics that you talk about and the types of videos that you want to create, so on and so forth. So when people say like, oh, all of this content creator stuff is just going to be automated out of existence, that's not how this stuff works. Another way to find specific and useful information to feed AI in order to do a task is just from a book or a PDF. If you want to write copywriting for a landing page or emails or whatever it may be, you can upload the book Breakthrough Advertising or Great Leads or any other copywriting book and just say, hey, summarize this, give me the exact, very detailed way of writing copywriting. And then you have instructions that you can feed AI, turn into a prompt to write that copy. Now, one of the most valuable things that I have in my life right now is a very good prompt that creates prompts. So this is actually a portion of what I taught.
This dude would have the prompt that creates prompts.
I mean, how long did he, take to compose this prompt?
Right. And he breaks it down right here.
In that
is
article
this his prompt?
that I posted on Substack. But here's what I did really to teach how to write landing page copy or to turn copywriting into a prompt that I can use over and over again. Now, I could have gotten more detailed with this, but what I did is I used Gemini 2.5 Pro, and I just said, research the book Breakthrough Advertising and give me an extremely detailed guide on how to write persuasive copywriting. And it did just that. It gave me an incredible guide for every step of persuasive copywriting, right? And the reason this is so incredible is because this would usually takes so long to learn in detail. It takes a long time to be able to write good copy. And if you don't want to learn how to write copy, you want to focus on your craft, you want to write, you want to build products, you want to design stuff, whatever it may be, but you know that you need to learn marketing or sales or other things like that, you can just create prompts, which are little employees that do those things for you, that are 90% of the way there, which is still much better than 0% of the way there. If you were to go and write a landing page for a product that you have without any of this knowledge, it's not going to perform or convert anywhere near as well as if you were to do this. So I had it.
That was what I was talking about, where, you know, you're a very creative person. You want to design something, you want to create something, you want to have more one-on-one personal interactions, conversations, stuff like that. But you got to learn marketing, you got to learn sales, you got to learn content creation and hooks and storytelling, blah, blah, blah. If you just prompt these things, you know, and kind of like allow AI to condense it into like, hey, hit these markers every time you do this, bop, 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 then you never had to, quote unquote, learn it, put the time in, and learn these gems, these gems of wisdom, or that create that skill. You just have all the stuff, and you just like, okay, go off the checklist. All right, make it this, and this, and then that saves time, right? Bending time, and so that you can put more effort and time into the actual doing of the thing that you want to do.
Wow, dude, this is gonna help so much because I started with my, writing my newsletter. This is spot on, dude. I need to go back and refine it a bit for sure.
Yeah,
Interesting.
you can reference like the best newsletters or the best storytelling formats or structures, and then create that prompt of like how would I create a blog post with this structure,
Yeah,
in the most hook oriented way or whatever.
yeah,
But like think about all the time that we spent in our 20s learning skills like sales,
yeah,
marketing,
yep.
communication, like so much time.
So much time.
And it's just like it's not a waste, like, because like, the pain of anything is valuable, right? But I mean, when you can spend more time on what you want to do, that's the goal.
Right. Wow.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah,
I
let's
spit
keep
out
going.
instructions. And then from that, since I like to structure my prompts in 2 different phases, I said, imagine
Okay.
you were going to write landing page copy for me using all of these principles. What is all of the information you'd need to gather from me in order to write an incredible landing page? And so what it did from all of this is it just wrote down all of the context specific to me that it would need. So the name of the product or service, a description, the core problem, the desired outcome and benefit, the unique mechanism, the unique selling proposition, target audience, so on and so forth. So with all of this, it's like I could continue talking here and like somehow get it to spit out a landing page, but it's so much easier to take all of this information, turn these into documents that I can reference later, and turn them into a meta prompt. So what I would do here is I go to write incredible AI prompts and I tell it what I want to do, right? So this is where I have the prompt that creates prompts. So if I want to turn something into a prompt, I always go here, and I do this very often, but I'll show you what it did. So I want to create an AI prompt that generates a 500 to 1,000 word landing page for a digital information product. Structure your prompt in 2 phases. Phase 1, context gathering. Acquire all information you need according to the information inside. Questions needed from user. What
Okay.
that is all of this second output. So all of the context that it needs from me, where I asked like, hey, what do you need from me? So I gave that here because I turned it into a document, and then I linked it so it can reference it. And then I just said, ask the user 2 to 3 questions at a time to prevent overwhelm. And then in phase 2, write the actual copy. So use the principles from how to write copy, which is the first answer to this, right? How to write copy is here. And then it's very long. So I save this as a document and I fed it here. And then it says, okay. And then it created a prompt, but it did it in a code block. And so I just told it, hey, do this in markdown format. And then it broke it down in 2 phases. So first it's going to interview me. What does it need? What's my product? What's my target audience? All of that stuff. Then phase 2, it takes all of that, and according to how to write copy, which it gives this is the interview section of the prompt. And then phase 2, write the landing page copy. So here's what you do: compelling headline, opening lead, problem desire intensification, so on, benefits and proof, so on and so forth. So if I want to write a landing page, I now have a prompt to do so. And all I need to do is send that prompt, give it my information, and then it will spit out a first draft of a landing page that's better than what most people can create when they haven't learned anything. So that's how I would become AI first, is just get really used to that process. Is 1, figure out how to do something, write down the detailed instructions, turn that into a meta prompt so that you can run it over and over again and refine the prompt over time so it continues to get better. And then soon enough, you have this library of prompts that does most of your workflow for you. But of course, becoming AI first isn't the only thing that you need.
That's huge. Ask it how to do something. Tell it to give you the instructions necessary for you to do it. Create the meta prompt, and then update from there.
Yeah. Now I've done something very similar where, I ask it a question and it gives me, kind of like a very generic answer. And I'll be like, okay, what kind of information do you need from me to better understand the situation in its entirety to give me, a different perspective of this? So I actually ask it like, okay, what color is it? What time of day? You know what I'm saying? So literally, this is like, yeah. So I've been doing something very similar, but just like in a different context.
Yeah.
But yeah,
To do. That's just presented with one of the greatest opportunities of a lifetime, and you're still falling into the most cliched trap of comfort and playing victim and trying to hold on to your old way of life when all good things aren't permanent. You still don't realize that if you work a job that a machine can replace, your life probably lacks novelty and meaning and fulfillment and challenge and complexity and continuous growth and learning. That alone is a massive signal to do something new. And this isn't an opinion. Those things aren't opinion about things being meaningful or fulfilling. That's documented psychological patterns. First, you fulfill your basic needs, and then you pursue your actualization needs. And in order to stay in some kind of a flow state, you need to gradually increase the challenge that you can take on over time, because that demands that you develop skills to match that challenge. But if you get stuck in this repetitive line of work where there is no more challenge after a specific point, you're just repeating the same day in and day out, that's not fulfilling. That's not enjoyable. You're not learning anything. You're not evolving or growing as an individual, especially if you're spending 8 hours a day, a third of your life there, and you're spending another third of your life sleeping. And then you're spending the other third of your life scrolling because you don't have anything better to dedicate your time to, because your life is just set. You're doing the repetitive work every day. There's nothing more that you need to go after or pursue. So
that right there is what I want us to go in on, because I know that hit you like, oh yeah, facts, right?
I mean, especially current time of my
Yeah.
life we just spoke on. But yeah, continue.
All right, so my thing is, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were training, and she asked me, how much of your day do you enjoy? And I thought about it, and I said, not much. And and she was like, what? I enjoy my day a lot. I do this, I do that. I enjoy my work. she makes a lot of money with her job. I do this. I enjoy that. I enjoy my investing stuff. I'm like, okay. I said, but you're a very lucky person. You find enjoyment in your job. You own your business. You make a lot of money doing it. These investing, relationships, that's also financially prosperous as well. So, what outside of work do you do? What are these things that you do that you enjoy? Since you say you enjoy your life, your day so much. Well, like hanging with my kids and my friends afterwards. I was like, okay, cool. So that's after work. So if you're lucky, so I was like, okay, look, some people are lucky enough to have a job where it's continually changing and progressing, and you're challenged, but yet you're enjoying it, and you're interested and you're focused, and that is an amazing thing. But most people don't have that. Most people are exactly what he's talking about, where you've got the 9 to 5, it doesn't change much, if at all, and you do it to put food on the table and pay rent, right, and provide for yourself, your family, your kids, and there's no enjoyment there. And I said, my thing is, I don't expect to enjoy most moments of my day, because a lot of what I have to do is just necessary activities, work that provides the money to exist. Right. And most jobs, like I'm a trainer. I said I enjoy conversations. I said I'm very blessed that I get to train with people, and I love conversations. So like for a whole hour, I'm just talking to people, talking about all kinds of ideas and stuff like that. And I'm pretty good at getting them to enjoy a conversation as well. I've had jobs. You've had jobs where it's murder. You're dying inside.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, that's what I said. I just don't like the question on how many moments of the day or how that you enjoy, right? I said, because I think the most important thing is flow states. Because when you're in a flow state, you're enjoying that moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, when you're at work, you're capable of doing these things. You're a little bit challenged, and that's what brings the enjoyment. But that's what a flow state is. If you were doing things where there was no challenge, and it was very mundane, you would not enjoy your work. And I said, I think the bigger question is, how many moments within your day can you create a flow state?
Wow. Yeah.
Because that's actually more valuable and more tangible than, hey, do I enjoy my day? Because people can relate that to, am I happy?
Just about to say.
And that's an emotional state.
Right.
And that is not. And I told her, I said, I don't trust my emotions.
Well, not a lot of people can conceptualize that, Cody.
True.
Yeah.
But like you and I understand that, like, our emotions, though valid, are not always true.
Correct.
And that is a sign of maturity. And phrasing these questions as if, like, if you don't enjoy most of your day, then you're not happy. And happiness is the goal. And happiness defined as emotional excitement or ecstasy. And it's like, that's not, one, it's not realistic. And two, why is that should not be, that's not the goal.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Exactly.
To be happy all the time it's impossible because of our emotions,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think people just get so caught up in, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. And it's just like an unrealistic, th- you know, pe- you know, thought process, mentality. I think for me personally, yeah, of course, I want to be happy, and I'm happiest when I'm in certain flow states. I think there's different phases of flow states, whether it's,
Yeah.
training, deep work, meditation, or, hanging out with, doing a podcast. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful flow state right here. We're in flow. But I think ultimately, like for me, what I've, come to realize, especially in the past several years, is like, what is, what I aspire to have is just like a baseline of just inner peace.
Exactly.
Inner peace. That is,
That's what I told her. I literally said that, dude. I said I don't have many moments of enjoyment in my day. I said, but I have moments of peace where I feel like I'm in purpose. It's working out. I'm at I don't feel like I have to like I'm not in a state of inadequacy. Like not I'm not in a state of I'm not enough.
right.
I'm in a state of like I'm enough. It's working as it's supposed to work. I'm getting, I'm going along with it, and I don't have much resistance from me and from outside factors.
Yeah. And I'm
Those
at peace,
moments.
and I'm at peace about it.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
That is
It's,
okay.
I mean, isn't it just like a level of contentment,
Yes.
right?
100%.
Which essentially comes from gratitude, conscious gratitude,
Right.
you know? Gratitude and being happy are two different things. And I think people really need to start breaking that down first in
How
order
would you
to.
break that down?
I knew you were gonna put me on the spot.
Ah.
Oh man. Just like happiness is a state of mind, gratitude is a state of mind. I just think, what I do is like, consciously reflect on, the past, the present, the future, but also just be in that present moment of just like look at everything that I have, and just feeling it and just be in a place of allowing things to happen. Um, yeah. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I Yeah, go
for
ahead.
for gratitude, and I think they're different just because, um, how how can you be happy? Like
Right.
what does that mean? Because I feel like everybody, like what makes you happy, Cody, might not necessarily make me happy.
Right.
But, kind of the same thing with gratitude, but we can still um, relate with certain things of gratitude. Like I'm grateful for, the air that I breathe, the food in my belly, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera. So I don't know if this is making sense, but that's just kind of how, it comes across in my head.
Absolutely. There is there's a video I want to play. Um,
How would you articulate it? I'm still, I'm honing my skills when it comes to articulating my words. Like I can think it, but speaking it, as I'm, becoming
um,
more well versed with, my
Ask me the
articulation of,
question. Ask me the question again.
what is the difference between, being happy and being grateful? I feel like because they're they are very distinctive.
Yeah. Well, it's really a definition thing, right? So happy, I think most people think of happy as like an emotional state, right? Of ecstasy, like spritefulness, like bouncing, like energized, like happy, like it's pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's more attached to a physical emotion, where gratitude is a state of realization, right?
Yeah.
Where I think I don't think I think you can be grateful and happy, but moments of happiness don't always conclude or include gratitude. Because I think a lot of people who seek moments of happiness, like that was enjoyable. Oh, I did that. They're pleasure seeking,
Hmm.
and you got to move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, because you can't sit still and like not have that pleasurable quote unquote happy feeling, because then you'll start thinking about all these things that aren't as happy. But the moment that you can do that and you sit in the joyful and the painful and be thankful for both, that's gratitude.
Yeah.
And that's a maturity thing, right? And a spiritual thing.
I got something to add to that. Obviously, my handy dandy person that has actually helped me become more better with articulating using ChatGPT. I feel like, able to articulate myself a lot better. So just reading this, I'm learning how to articulate, the difference. So with that being
Right.
said, I prompted, how can you conceptualize the difference between being grateful and happy from a philosophical standpoint, acting as my higher self? Because I like to throw that into the mix, coming
Right.
from a gratitude is a state of awareness. It arises when your soul recognizes what is, accepts what has been, and honors the moment for what it offers you. It's not dependent on pleasure. It's not an emotion. It's a perspective. It says, even in tension, I see the gift. Even in the unknown, I trust the unfolding. Gratitude is an anchor to presence. When you're grateful, you don't need to escape the moment. You breathe into it and you say,
Mm.
this too belongs. Whereas happiness, however, is a state of being. It's more fleeting. It moves with conditions, success, connection, accomplishment, ease. It's beautiful, but transient. It's the sun on your face. Gratitude is the earth beneath your feet. Happy.
Mm.
Oh, man. It's the sun on your face. Gratitude is the earth beneath your feet. Happiness whispers, I feel good now. Gratitude says, I see good now, regardless.
Wow. I love that.
Whew,
Wow. I
man.
feel good now. Whispers, I feel good now. And what's the last part? Gratitude.
Happiness whispers, I feel good now. Gratitude says, I see good now, regardless.
Mm.
Regardless.
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 Yeah. Huge. Yeah. And you and I, you might agree with this or not. Tell me if you do, but that can't be forced.
No.
You know?
It has to, I think it set it up here. It has to unfold.
Yeah.
I trust what's unfolding. How do you
Right.
trust? You let go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where faith comes into play. And the definition of that faith is, I don't know, but God, who knows all, knows. I put my trust in that, not in me.
Yep.
A lot of people don't realize that that's what faith is. Faith is trusting in something that knows more than you, trusting
Wow.
in the thing that gave you your life.
Yeah. Damn. That's amazing.
Yeah. I want to, were you going to say something?
I mean, I'll just finish off with the prompt says, as your higher self, I will tell you this. Gratitude is your access point to peace.
Mm,
Ooh, man, what were we just saying?
exactly.
Oh, gosh. Happiness is your reward for alignment. Hmm. If you chase happiness, you'll keep running in circles. But if you choose gratitude, genuine, soul-rooted gratitude, you'll find joy that doesn't shake when the winds of life blow.
Very poetic. Yeah.
It's a simple prompt, by the way.
Dan Koe, suck on that. That was
I
a
know.
simple prompt.
That was no, that was a simple prompt, man. But again, back to, and we can get into your next point. It's like, look what, a simple prompt or just a prompt did. It literally expanded both of our minds. For me specifically, like poetically articulating words. So the
Mhm.
more I have these prompts, the more I read this, the more I embody it, the more I will be able to articulate, months down the road of constantly, refining my, my articulation of words, I'll be able to be like, yeah, Cody, happiness is, however, it is a state of being. So
Mhm.
just very eye-opening right now because you're like, you put me on the spot. It's like, oh no, I don't know how to articulate how I'm feeling. So again, that's what I love about, you know, using ChatGPT. I'm becoming more creative, not only with, business, but also just like word articulation and getting creative and thinking outside the box.
Yeah. And on that point there, I asked a question. You're like, I know what I'm trying to say, but it's hard to articulate it. Let me go to ChatGPT, and its articulation. It's not that we're just accepting what ChatGPT says. We've both done the work to see that response as
Right.
like, wow, okay, that's spot on. We've seen people miss it,
Hmm.
and we can see, oh, okay, yes, we agree with that based on our experiences and our life that we've lived, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot, like we were saying at the very beginning, a lot of people say, oh, you're just going to accept anything that ChatGPT gives you. Well, if it gives you good stuff, then yes, but that's up to the user to discern.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
everything that it said, you and I both agree.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
sure. We've done the work, but I want to add in a very much so key ingredient that you will, definitely, resonate with you. And we also continue to do the work because the work
yeah,
never ends.
it never ends.
Never ends.
No,
You
and
know?
that's such a vital thing that I think I've realized these obviously these past few years even more how important that is. And I was reading this morning about that, and in the Orthodox Church of Christianity, it is more. It's more. You're educated more on the fact that your salvation is a continual process. Of stripping off the stuff that's not necessary.
Yeah.
You
Don't
know,
they call it, don't they call it in the Bible, dying to self
yes, dying to yourself every day,
every day?
picking up your cross every day. Allowing the unnecessary in your life to be less necessary. And it's a process, and I think a lot of, in the way that a lot of the people around us when we were growing up in church, it was like, I'm saved, I'm good now,
Yep.
I get to be the same asshole I've always
Yep.
been.
Oh, shoot. I cheated on my wife. I'll just ask for forgiveness and it'll all go away.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's no real humility there,
Right.
and it's the constant striving for righteousness and humbling yourself and realizing that you're never there, and that there's more that you can grow towards is part of that working out your own salvation, saving yourself from your the slave passions that we have.
Yep.
So on that flow stuff, I wanted to play this video from Joe Rogan's podcast with the director Robert Rodriguez.
Okay.
I don't know if I sent it to you. I don't think I did. I think I sent it to my brother, and he loved it. But I'm going to share something else here. Cool. I'm going to play this.
There was a book called The One Thing, a business book called One Thing, like do one thing and just do that well. I thought, okay, that book's not for me. And I was doing this talk where they introduced me. They said, Robert Rodriguez is a writer, director, editor, composer, just a long list of all the jobs I do. And I went up there like, wow, I get tired just hearing that list. And I keep seeing that book, The One Thing. And at first I thought, that's not me. But I realized, you know what? I don't just do all those things. There's one thing I really do that ties all those together. When you think about it, I do one thing, and it's I live a creative life. And if you commit to living a creative life, like literally applying creativity to everything you do, your workout in the morning, how you interact with your kids, the meal you cook, what you're going to do that night, A business call you take, be creative. I love my business meetings now the most. I make people pizza, I'm making my chocolate, we talk about creativity, and they want to be in business with you. It's like so good because you're adding creativity. It enriches your life and everyone around you. And that way, anything that touches creativity, whether it's painting, drawing, sculpture, music, is available to you, because 90% of that job is just being creative. And if you're doing it all day, you're always going to be in a flow. If you don't embrace that and you go about your daily life and you don't apply creativity, well, when you go home that night to write your novel or something, you're going to be blocked because you're not in a creative flow. But if you've just been applying creativity all day long to everything, I'm going to do this talk creatively. I'm going to bring some cards. I'm going to go do this. You're applying creativity. You're always in a flow. So when you go back to go do your main job, you've already been doing it and you're living your best life, because I found I was most successful, happiest, and most fulfilled when I was being creative. So why not just do that 24/7? And it's been a life changer. It's been doing that like 15 years with consciousness.
So, right, he goes, what was that last part? He goes,
in your best life, because I found I was most successful, happiest, and most fulfilled when I was being
most happiest, most successful, most fulfilled when he's being creative, right?
That's a great 3-pillar system right there. Yep.
Flow. He was in a creative flow. Moments of creative flow.
Wow.
That's such a valuable distinction, I think, for people. If somebody's watching this, and they're like, what's like a thing that I can take away? It's like not seeking happiness, not seeking moments of enjoyment, but seeking states of flow where the process of flow is a creative process.
Yeah.
You can't be in flow and not be accessing some part of your imagination or creativity.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was just a really remarkable breakdown on.
Yeah. Can you send that to me?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I've read summaries of that book, The One Thing.
Okay.
And it's a great concept, but I struggled with that idea as well. When he said, yeah, you do the one thing. That's very applicable to someone with a very singular interest. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're a writer, you want to write books, do the one thing. Sit down for 4 hours a day and write the book. Got it. Cool. I've got multiple interests. What's the one thing that ties it all together? And it's creativity.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting stuff, right?
Good stuff, dude. Good stuff. Yeah. Man, this is such a great podcast right now, man. Just reiterating things that I've been just thinking about over the weekend with, the new establishments in my current business and life, and how can I, stay in a creative process and stay in flow.
Yeah.
What is that? I feel most successful, happy, and fulfilled in flow when I'm creating.